Some of my fellow senior citizens are complaining and such about the pensions. Let me tell you something, friends. The history of pensions is interesting. Now, I don't use the pensions because I made my money many decades ago and invested wisely and such. But, y'all gotta take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, because just because it worked for me don't mean it will work for you. And some of you folks are gonna be on the pensions and such. Well, to tell you what's interesting, friends. It was the Mr. Bismarck of Germany who first created the comprehensive government social services sometime in the 1800s, and basically even in the 18th century, them British naval sailors received pensions at the end of their 22-year service. But you gotta understand that many of them died before they even got there. And they're also compensated for the injuries and such that they sustained in their work, and they were invalided, which meant they could leave and they would be paid. Now, interestingly, in Europe, there are a lot of young folks. From what I understand, my friend has a son who is computers minded, and he works in the advanced computers, and he even worked over there in London, otherwise known, from what I understand from folks around the place, are calling it Neo Soweto these days. And in London town, there are lots of young folks who are working for them big ass companies and having psychiatric troubles and such, working in them big ass companies and with the nasty people, and because it's pretty, it's a difficult environment for many people to understand and to work within. And I used to work for a large firm when I was younger, but back in them days, they were nothing like the size they are today. And they are claiming pensions and such because of psychiatric problems after a few years. And so he met this young man from Lymanland who is traveling all around Europe, and he was working for one of the big ass accounting firms in Neo Soweto. And after a few years, he gets his doctor's certificates and such to say that he's all screwed up in the head. Woohoo! And so he's getting paid €200 a month or some such thing, or a week to do this. And it doesn't seem right to me. Anyway, it was in the 19th century. There was a big crash in them mutual funds that people used to put their money into. And so in 1908, our great government decided to set up the invalid pensions to replace the state ones that had been created. And even if you go back 3,000 years and such to the Roman times, the legionnaires received payouts of 10 years' wages upon completion of their services there in the legions. So they got 10 years' pay in one amount. And today, people are studying their Bachelor of Arts in horseshit, professional victims degrees. They'll be lucky to get an extra shift at the Pig and Whistle or Suzanne or some such place. And I fear that they don't understand it because of modern technology. They'll all be living until they're 120 or such. Heck, I mean, I think I could live to 100, and I'm just a couple of decades off, so I could do it. They can, and with the modern technologies and such. And the interesting thing is that many of them are don't understand they're going to be working all the way till they're 100 years old because them house prices, well, you can pay $500,000 for a shack of sticks and bricks out there at the ass end of Hash Grove or some other ghetto suburb that pretends to be some fancy place. And what do you expect? So that's life. People are attached to this idea of home ownership. The media's done a very good job. It's much like the Diamonds campaign from De Beers, and people now think that if you own a home, you are a daddy old big pants property tycoon. When the reality is, a home is not an asset. It's a liability because you got to spend money on it just to keep it. Whereas the real rich folks don't own homes; they just split from one penthouse suite in a hotel to another, and they just don't bother with owning. They just rent. So it's interesting now in Australia. We think that owning is for daddy old big pants, and that means these folks will be working until they're 90, and then they might be lucky to get a pension. I do believe that with the cost of living and such, the pensions should go up a little bit, but I don't think it's right for folks who are 65 years of age to get a pension. I mean, them young folks, 60 years old, that's young. I mean, you can still do a lot of things. Hey, grown men like me in their 80s, I still have thoughts about women, and I can still get my up, and I can do fine. So I don't understand how 65 can be considered old. Okay, friends, what do you think of the pension in Australia? You think it's good? What do you think they need to do to fix it? Please rate, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, tell Billy Jack Troop below. Bye for now.